And primetime coverage continues right now with Paula Zahn. Hey, Paula.
Thanks, Anderson. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Glad to have you with us tonight. Coming up, the latest on the mystery of the missing bride in Georgia. And then Mariah Carey gets personal tonight. A candid conversation about her fairy tale gone bad, her meltdown, and now her comeback. But first, a child in danger saved by a woman on a mission of mercy. And years later, the twist of fate that reunites them.
He was an enemy in his own land, an orphan of war, with an American father, abandoned by his Vietnamese mother.
I just hear the gates closed, and I turn around, and essentially my mother's gone.
She was a flight attendant who helped rescue him and many others.
I'm going, this can't be. There's so many of these babies. It was overwhelming. Gosh, it was amazing.
Tonight, a reunion. Two lives touched by war find each other again.
For roughly 2,500 Americans, this month is a special anniversary. As babies and small children, they were crammed onto airplanes and flown out of danger during those final chaotic days before the fall of South Vietnam 30 years ago. It was called Operation Babylift, and it was controversial, because not everyone thought that these children of American servicemen and Vietnamese women should come here in the first place. But there is no denying it was a heroic effort, and it's led to lifelong bonds between some of the children and their rescuers. Betty Wynn has one of those stories.
Hello, Roger.
Hi, Karen.
It's a relationship that began 30 years ago in a dangerous, war-torn country. Today, they live just 25 miles apart. Here in Montana, that's practically next door, thousands of miles away from where they first met. It was the 1970s, and Karen Ryan, young and beautiful, was living the glamour life, working for Pan Am. They called them stewardesses back then, and Ryan signed up to see the world. Only America was at war, and she often had the difficult job of shuttling nervous soldiers to Vietnam.
You just grab their hand and say, take care of yourself. And it was just like looking at doomed people sometimes.
But on April 4th, 1975, an airport telegram changed her life.
While we were driving to the hotel, we were reading this, that we had been rerouted the next day. It wasn't in big letters, will you volunteer for this? We just thought we were doing it, and then later they told us that it was volunteer basis only.
That's because this mission was different. Saigon was falling to communism. The plane packed with baby bottles. The plan, pick up not troops, but children. Victims of war, abandoned, and possibly marked for death because of their American fathers. Children like this boy, his name then, Nguyen Si Cung. Abandoned at birth, he was adopted by a Vietnamese family until his mixed features started to show. Then at the age of 6, his adoptive mother took him on a sightseeing trip that ended at this Saigon orphanage.
The gate opened, and I remember my mother said, why don't you go in and see what it's like? And I walked in not knowing, because she stood back, and I just walked in, and it seemed almost instant that I just hear the gates closed, and I turn around, and essentially my mother's gone. And I remember that I really, I don't know if maybe I thought she was kidding, maybe I didn't know, but I just wanted to get out.
He never saw her again.
I constantly tried to climb the gate, or I tried to climb the fence. I was trying to find any way to get out and find my way home.
Whether she did it out of love or fear, he believes his adoptive mother saved him from the communists.
They would have taken away my life. I think that they would have, because I essentially am half of the quote-unquote enemy to them.
Fear for these infant enemies sparked the special American evacuation Operation Babylift. Some 2,000 orphans with a ticket to freedom, among them Weng-si-kung. Tragically, the first flight out crashed in a rice field, killing some 135 people, mostly babies. But the mission was not abandoned. Karen's plane arrived the day after the crash, and the children came piling up the steps, not knowing it would be a one-way trip, and this would be the last memory of their homeland.
It was very crowded. There was approximately about 100 of us from the age of 6 to 8, and we were all into the back of the plane. The babies were up front, and I remember the stewardess just running around.
They were handing me babies, you know, 2, 3 babies, and I'd get them on her seatbelt, and here'd come more, and of course every baby's crying. The children are traumatized.
And so was Karen. A snapshot captures the moment when this mercy mission became personal.
What goes through your mind when you turn around and you've got 3 to 4 babies in your arms?
I'm going, this can't be. There's so many of these babies. It was overwhelming. Gosh, it was amazing.
The sick children were taken upstairs to the 747's lounge, where on regular flights, wealthy passengers would dine. Crammed in, down below, was the little boy who wondered if he'd ever have a family, on his way to an uncertain future. Everything in his life would soon change, and change again, even his name.
And when we come back, an orphan's unexpected detour on his way to the American dream.
I did not know that I was going to a family at all. All I knew was I was going on a plane, I was taking a trip to a new place, and that's going to be my home.
A rough landing in a new country, as our story continues in just a moment. Operation Babylift carried 2,500 Vietnamese children to new lives in the U.S. just days before the fall of Saigon. They flew on military transports and commercial airliners, and most would never see their rescuers again after those flights to freedom. Betty Nguyen now tells us how one refugee and his rescuer were reunited decades later.
He was an orphan caught up in a war, the son of an American father and a Vietnamese mother, and he was on his way to an uncertain future.
Did you realize at the time what was happening? Did you realize that you were headed to America and to an American family that you would now call your own?
I did not know that I was going to a family at all. All I knew was I was going on a plane, I was taking a trip to a new place, and that's going to be my home. But I did not know their names. I did not know how many kids they have. I didn't even know I was going to a specific destination.
And he wasn't the only one with questions. Karen was concerned too.
I was really worried about where they were going, what kind of parents they were going to get. Would they be loved? Would they be received? Would they be nourished, nurtured?
In America, Weng-si-kung was given a new name, Larry. He had a family and a home on this farm in Iowa, but it just wasn't working out.
My American life didn't start on April 5th of 1975 when I was 6. It didn't start there. The wheel was turning. I was getting there. I got here. But I think my real life didn't start until November of 1978, when I came to the Castillos in California.
Again, he was given a new name, Roger Castillo, the 7th child in a family full of adopted children from all over the world. He was finally home, but he never forgot how he got there.
These sandals are 30 years old. the pair that you wore when you boarded that plane, how special are they?
They're very special. They're my only connection to that era. And just to know that I've essentially walked out of my old life to a new life, and these were what carried me. Play again?
Today, Roger Castillo is married, father of 2 beautiful daughters who share his Vietnamese features, a constant reminder of an unfamiliar past and how parents never known can still shape their children.
I have an image of who my father is, and I want to uphold that image. I want to love my kids as though if he was still there, would he love me? Would my mother would have kept me? If she would have had a spouse to help take care? So I think it really challenges me to be a good father.
They don't have teeth.
And part of that challenge includes learning about his Vietnamese roots.
Right now, I can teach my kids the American way of living, but I can't teach them where I came from.
Sometimes it's the present that links to the past. Roger made his home amid the mountains of western Montana.
Can you go?
He's a physician's assistant in an emergency room that serves the city of Missoula, where just up the road, past the fly fishermen and the fields of sheep, lives a link to what was just a fading memory. He found Karen when she wrote about her plane load of babies in Reader's Digest, and she hasn't stopped caring for children.
Do you have somebody in mind?
Yeah, I do. I have about 4 baby nurses interested.
She owns a company that places nannies in homes.
I'm just thinking, yeah, I could retire.
30 years after their chance meeting, they have become like family. They share meals and watch their children grow. Karen even keeps pictures of the babies on her flight displayed as if they were her own. And she's made sure Roger never forgets the day they met. Alive and well, April 5, 1975, is inscribed on a pendant she gave him.
That's pretty special. And it's something that you guys are going to carry with you forever?
Sure.
Forever?
Yep.
Forever. Because I look at Karen and I look at all the stewardess that was on that flight. I look at the pilots as those were my angels. They're the ones that took us up. They're the ones that flew us out, and they're the ones that give us that new life.
What a great story about humanity. Coming